Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the show. John Maloney, you were telling me something very important has happened in your life this week.
Thanks, Al. It certainly has. And I don't know if you've had this sense, but it's really been evident to me this week that a lot of people in the community are taking Don't Praise the Machine and really holding space with that and feeling power in that. And that really means a lot to me because that's what I wanted to happen. And I didn't know it would happen. I certainly didn't know it would happen this week. And it just knocked me for six that people were holding space and taking power in the podcast.
I've seen it. I've seen it in a couple of posts. I don't know how widespread it is, but we are in queer media, and
We're
so
in queer media.
we have been seeing it a lot all over the place, and that is really powerful. For anybody that doesn't know, we are referring to some of the incredibly bizarre happenings that have been happening in Celebristan. I'm going to use a Sam Harrisism, Celebristan.
Oh, there you go. Celebristan.
Yeah. This is going to be quite, at least for the first bit of the show, everybody. You're going to love, if you love celebrity news, this is going to be a bit celeb heavy for the first bit of the show, at least, because we got some. Because the Hollyweird is really collapsing in on itself, and I'm here for it. As they say.
That's what we hold space for here on the show. Is the bizarre recesses of Hollywood's seemingly limitless, out of touch self-obsession.
I'm so here for it because you and we are in alternative media, and I just cannot wait to take the place of these people because I am so ready for it. I'm holding space for that. So this week, the last week, the Wicked film has been released, which was based on the musical, and the Wicked film, of course, stars friend of the show, Ariana Grande, and her name is Erivo. Cynthia, is it Cynthia Erivo?
Cynthia Erivo, that's right.
Cynthia Erivo. And they've been running around the world doing press junkets and talking to people, to other journalists about the film, kind of entertainment journalists, and very, very accommodating kind of entertainment journalists, I must say.
Very, very, very little critical pushback on the drivel that's coming out of them. And it's interesting. I mean, I didn't know. I don't know if you did. Maybe people among our listeners and viewers will be more au fait with, I mean, I'm a bit old, a bit out of touch, certainly when it comes to people who might have been on the kind of musical trajectory. I didn't know who Cynthia Erivo was before this, and I hadn't really thought about Ariana Grande in a while either, but I certainly knew who she was. But they've really become like a very tight-knit duo in this seemingly never-ending press junket, and it's been such a welcome trickle of just the kind of exchanges that you and I love hearing, and that actually, I mean, to the extent that there's any truth in the vacuous proposition that people are holding space for the podcast, it's taken the form of several people saying to me, "Are you going to talk about this on the podcast?" Because they know this is the kind of thing we're in for.
Yeah,
we're here for.
We are here for. So they've been doing these press conferences, and it's just bizarre because the first thing that I became aware of was on Instagram and social media. People started posting videos saying these two appear to be crying in every interview that they're being asked to answer questions in. And so I was checking that out, and I was like, man, this is pretty weird because the interviewer will ask them, and it seems like all of the interviewers themselves are just these kind of fanboy, fangirl, musical theater, celebrity gossip, news, queer media reporters who just ask them these questions that are just, oh my God, this movie meant so much to me, and I can't believe how it's changed the whole world. And then they will both go.
Their question will be, exactly. They'll just start crying. It'll be a hardball question like, did you realize that you would change the world when you made this movie or something?
Yeah. And then they'll go, oh, thank you so much for saying I can't believe that we just had no idea that was going to happen. And then then Ariana and Cynthia will start sort of holding each other's hands and rubbing each other's hands.
Yeah.
And then they'll go, if you need to cry, you cry. And then the other one will go, oh, I need to cry. And if that happened like once, you'd go, oh, okay, it's kind of touching thing that's happened. Like obviously
bit too much, but like not unusual in Hollyweird. But then, it's literally seems to be like 8 hours of that a day.
I don't know. They must have just had to hammer Powerade to keep their fluids up because they spend the whole day just leaking. They'd get a headache from dehydration from that amount of time.
Yeah, exactly. They'll get chronic tear duct issues from so much feeling. Because and it's so there's that exchange where they talked about the holding space for lyrics, which by the way, they didn't write. I mean, of course they didn't write them. They're just actors and performers.
Have you got the whole quote there, John? Can you?
Sure, yeah. I'll see if I can bring that up.
Can you read the whole quote? Because after I saw all the ones of them crying, and then there were a bunch of clips of them, just kind of talking about how important the film was, and how it's been really important, to make sure that people who feel like they don't fit in the world, how people who didn't think they fit in the world went to see the Wicked film, and then they realized that they did, and that they were really powerful.
Yeah. Holding space. So
I have the journalist's name. The journalist here who asked the question is Tracy E. Gilchrist.
Tracy, reporter for Out magazine, or she was at that point. She said, I've seen this week people are taking the lyrics of Defying Gravity, which is a song.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's a song from Wicked, and really holding space with that and feeling power in that. And then Cynthia says, that's really powerful. And Miss Grande sympathetically held on to her pointer finger. That's a lovely description, which is also just as an aside. There's weird finger holding going on in these interviews, which is more than happened.
Cynthia has these big like clothes peg nails in all of that, and maybe Ariana. So they kind of clickety clack their large fingernail extensions a lot during the press junket.
Yeah. And then she says, I didn't know that was happening, and that's what I wanted. And you go, what do you mean you didn't know that was happening? What is happening? Holding space for lyrics. What does that fucking mean?
How would you know? You go, what would have been better is if Cynthia, the opposite would be Cynthia sitting there going, what I've been slightly disappointed in is that nobody's been holding space for the lyrics to Defying Gravity. And that was really what I wanted. And I see no evidence. I see no evidence that space is being held for the lyrics of Defying Gravity. And that's really disappointing.
I've been amazed by the lack of lyrical space holding going on. And, I'm in queer media, so I have my feelers out. And if people were holding space, I'd fucking know about it within seconds. And nobody has been. And nobody's been feeling their power in the lyrics. And I don't know. I don't know whether she meant feeling power in holding space. How many layers of that, of bullshit can you get? Can you cram into one question? And then, then there's this kind of fawning, like this exchange, which I put up on my Instagram stories during the week because I just found it so unbearable, where this journalist finishes her interview with them and they're like, you're a special spirit. And, like this kind of, you're the best. You don't ever doubt yourself. And she's kind of looking at them like, thanks. I have to get on with my day. And and they're like sort of fawning and crawling all over each other and weeping and licking each other's tears.
The thing about it, as I said, because I wrote this to you in the week, is that there's always your reaction to the thing that's actually happening. But then the thing that makes it so strange is to think, what world are these people operating in where this type of behavior is celebrated and encouraged? Because if that was like within 5Ks of me, I would just be like, you are just the worst people. Like, I don't want to know you, and I don't want to know anyone that knows you. But they live in a world. Like, imagine going to a fucking dinner party or something, and people, well, if anybody in your friendship circle was like that, if they were just constantly talking about themselves and acting like children. Because that's the other thing. I think that this is the other thing that doesn't really get pointed out as much. And I do think it's fair to say these are these are adult women in their 30s.
Yeah.
Acting.
Yeah, Cynthia Erivo is like 37. So they're not like overwhelmed by, and also, and you just think like, okay, you know, like probably there was a couple of moving exchanges when Steven Spielberg was doing the press junket for Schindler's List, but this is a musical adaptation about witches. Like, does this really? What do you? And they act like they're sort of somehow in some way that is never specified. It's just kind of couched in this, like, you know, language of wank. They kind of act as though they're saving the world in some unspecified way. And again, it's not like, I mean, even if you thought the adaptation was really good, 90% of the decisions, 95% of the decisions that are being made about how the film is made and how their characters are presented, they're just acting on instructions. Like, and nobody knows who the fuck is the cinematographer, who's the script writer. You know, I mean, probably some of the musical theater nerds do know that, but you know, they kind of are implicitly taking credit for this whole enterprise, which is amazing. I mean, you see that, I guess, in Hollywood generally. People act as though sometimes they kind of, and we've talked about this on one of the episodes, earlier episodes of the show, they kind of not only take credit for their character in a way that they're not entitled to because they didn't write their character's part and they didn't write the film and they didn't do any filming and directing or anything. But also they sort of almost act as though they are that character. Like somehow if their character's done something politically interesting and serious, they almost, like you get, you know, George Clooney talking sort of earnestly and sagely about how important this is, and you think, well, you just read lines. I mean, you weren't doing this.
What's the guy that basically turned into Elvis after the Baz Luhrmann film?
Yeah. What is that guy's name?
He just was like, he made one film and then he started, he talked like a normal man, and then he made the Elvis film, and then he just started talking like Elvis for the rest.
Yeah.
Like he'd caught, right. like he'd had some
Austin Butler, his name was. And now he's since been in Dune 2, so the way he presents is partly like Elvis and partly like a Harkonnen princeling who's being groomed to take up the leadership. And so he's either blue suede shoeing or just kind of mining spice. That's his whole vibe now.
What I was thinking with the Cynthia Erivo Ariana Grande press junket, there's always a part of me when stuff like that captures the public attention and obviously puts Wicked the film at the top of mind for everybody. And so I do wonder, is this just all a planned? Have they been told by some sort of marketing genius to behave like this because it will just get a ton of free media attention on the film and then people go and see it? I kind of don't think it is that, because they're so insufferable. I just don't even think you could pretend to have come up with those types of characters. It's like you couldn't even write that stuff. And then the other thing is, I know that I'm in the minority, and I understand that apparently the film's done very well. Lots of people have gone to see it. But I would have maybe gone to have seen it, but I will not see it because of just how insufferable I found them both. I absolutely would not pay to go and see it. If somebody even said to me, there's like a spare ticket going for Wicked, I think I would just go, no. Like, they've behaved in a way. They behaved in a way which should not be rewarded by me giving them any more of my attention. And I do think I will be very interested over the next few years to see how, I don't know, that this kind of like celebrity adoration, I feel like there is a bit of a shift brewing where these institutions that have had all the power, like E! News and all this kind of fucking Hollywood bullshit. There's so much talk at the moment about how Hollywood's collapsing and how the power of celebrity is really collapsing. People have pointed to the fact that Kamala Harris paid, we don't know, but Kamala Harris had a ton of celebrity endorsements and it appeared to make no difference. So people have kind of brought that into the conversation and said, you know, you've got like Mark Ruffalo, aka Dark Puffalo, coming out and saying, you know, everyone vote for Kamala. And it appears to just have no impact on anything. And then also people are saying that back in the day you had stars like, you know, Tom Cruise and you had Clint Eastwood and you had Harrison Ford and you had like these huge Arnold Schwarzenegger, these huge Hollywood celebrities that you could, Jack Nicholson, who you would pay to be in a film and then that would make the film. And that's kind of been usurped by now you have like Marvel franchises where it's actually the character in the film that's more important necessarily than the actor who plays. And you can kind of, you know, maybe like, for example, with the Hulk has been, it was like Eric Bana and then there's been a bunch of other Hulks. So they can kind of, you know, I guess Tony Stark, that's the one that Downey Jr. plays, isn't it? That might be slightly more difficult, but you could still swap him out. Like think of all the people that have played Batman, right? So
exactly.
People have also pointed to that and said, you know, actors can't really command the same kind of power that they used to because Hollywood's like, well, this doesn't really work. It's more intellectual property that get people to go to see films rather than you.
Yeah, it's a juggernaut of the idea and all the kind of intellectual property that and kind of eight episode story arcs that go with it. That means that, you know, that's what's propelling it. So we can, if we want to chuck out Austin Butler and get in Idris Elba, that's nobody's going to notice.
That's right.
It's going to be fine. And you know, maybe that'll be good for it. So whatever. So yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about it in that way. But also you've got like the Met Gala was, you know, the most recent Met Gala. People were like, this is just a kind of orgy of self-involved elitism. Yeah. And you've got the kind of Diddy thing, which is just making Hollywood seem like a kind of disgusting cabal of people who are like either doing awful things or just kind of knowingly walking past other people doing awful things and not really calling it, which has happened obviously before with, you know, a lot of the Me Too stuff. People were like, oh yeah, this is an outrage. And you think, well, yeah, but you didn't say anything before it became, you know, popular and palatable for you to do that. And you obviously worked with these people and so on. So yeah, there's a bit of a confluence of different forces, which I love to see because I like that whole, and it's also this kind of, I mean, when you compare it to any sort of, you know, interview that you might get on a podcast, which is going to be much more unvarnished and also much more the podcaster, I would assume, not always, but the podcaster, if it's somebody influential, is going to be calling the shots on what goes out and what's presented. Whereas there's obviously such a kind of well-oiled machine of, you know, E-News going, okay, so this is how we're going to do the interview. Yeah. This is how your people have told us you want to come across. Exactly. Great, we can make that happen.
We got 4 minutes.
Sort of, yeah, it's just this kind of, you know, PR machine, which both sides benefit from it just being as kind of shallow and agreeable as possible, and nobody's asking them questions that they've asked them not to ask, and it's all fine. Whereas, you know, if you got somebody in a podcasting studio for an hour,
Cynthia,
and you said to them, yeah, you got Cynthia in there, and you said, what if you had to say something you didn't like about Ariana Grande, what would it
be? Yeah. I think it'll be very interesting to see. We talked about this as well, but it'll be very interesting to see what happens with the Met Gala in 2025. And the whole press junket from Wicked felt very much like an extension of the Met Gala type of people. There's very self-important people who are all elite Hollywood entertainment elites who seem completely out of touch with the rest of the population, and they turn up costumed and bedazzled and just like talk in these ways that nobody can relate to, and everyone just goes, you just seem completely fake, and I don't really want anything to do with you. So I will be very interested to see if there is a real deterioration.
The other thing which I'd love to touch on just briefly is the swirl of controversy involving a bit of fan art involving Cynthia Erivo, which I loved.
That's how I first heard of her. And you didn't know this, and I didn't know this, and then we were sharing all of the Wicked press junket clips, and then I said, "Man, you know what she said before the press junket?" And then I sent it to you.
Yeah,
so what happened
which is
there,
a great example of the way that, you know, these kind of bizarre things are swept under the carpet because it doesn't behoove anybody who's involved in the mainstream media to ask about them or revisit them in a way that would make anyone uncomfortable. But what happened was, so a lot of people will be familiar with Wicked, the long-running musical, and they might have even walked past the, you know, Wicked promotional art that's been made famous over the years. You know, if you go past a kind of like the theatre district in your city and you see Wicked's on, then you're probably going to have seen this, you know, famous poster, which is a lovely piece of graphic design, and it's got, I think it's Elphaba. I don't know. I've never watched Wicked, but it's a picture of a sort of stylized image of a witch, and she has so it's basically a kind of, I don't know, almost like a screen print, because the figure of the witch is just visible because it's all black against a kind of spooky green, sort of oozy slime green background, and the witch's hat is pulled down over her eyes so that you kind of have this mysterious sense. You don't quite know who this is. She's got this enigmatic half smile on her face, and another sort of white witchy looking, as in dressed in white as opposed to black looking witch is whispering in the first witch's ear. So that's the image, and most of you will know when you kind of look it up. If you Google Wicked musical poster, you'll know what I mean. And the film poster for the Wicked adaptation with Ariana and Cynthia and some others has sort of modernized that and taken a slightly different take or approach, where you can see more of Cynthia's face. And what somebody did, because obviously there are a lot of people who are massive musical fans out there, and they follow these things, and they've been watching.
Huge Wicked fan base. Huge. Yeah, like the same way that there are, you know, Star Wars
fans of Star Wars fans. Exactly. There's Wicked aficionados, and one of them was this guy. I can't remember his name, but perhaps, well, it doesn't matter. He was a fan of the show, Wicked, the musical, and clearly, and you know, he was excited, as so many fans were, by the film adaptation. And it seems that what he did was basically a bit of fan art. So he reworked the film image, you know, with Cynthia and Ariana Grande, so that it more closely resembled the original classic art from the musical, which incorporated putting the hat down over Cynthia's eyes, because that's how the Elphaba appears in the original poster.
Hat down over the eyes and red lipstick. That was like the two.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And so people, you know, reacted at first happily, saying, well, that's a lovely tribute, and, you know, it's clever and blah, blah, blah. And naturally they were, you know, lots of people were forwarding it
Fans
to
loved
Cynthia. Yeah. People were saying, Cynthia, have a look at this. Someone who loves your adaptation and loves the Wicked has made a bit of fan art, and she absolutely lost it and said something like, "This is the most wildly offensive thing I've ever seen."
I have it here, John.
Yeah,
I can read it. So,
right,
all the fans of Wicked, they thought Cynthia will love this because it's closer to the original poster that we love so much. And what we've done is We've put the hat down over her eyes. We've given her the original red lipstick instead of the green lips. And apparently Ariana's hand in the theater poster, original theater poster, the hand of covering Ariana's face was slightly higher up. In the film image.
Okay.
They made it, I guess, a bit lower so you could see more that it was Ariana. So they put the hand up on Ariana, red lipstick on Cynthia, and then the hat down over the eyes. And they were like, man, Cynthia's going to absolutely love this because she's a normal person. And she wrote on Instagram, as Instagram story that she did, she wrote, "This is the wildest, most offensive thing I have ever seen. Equal to that awful AI of us fighting." Because somebody made quite a cute, humorous, again, another fan thing where they just done one of these kind of Sora AI images where they're next to each other and they start kind of boxing each other. And it's just cute and silly. This is the wildest, most offensive thing I've ever seen. Equal to that awful AI of us fighting. Equal to people posing the question, "Is your pussy green?" Which is quite funny because that's actually a really old meme from when it was a theater show. Like it's been around. It's been around for years. Because I think what happened was years ago, somebody when the theater show has been running, somebody went up to the theater because she's whispering in her ear. Somebody had done in marker on the poster that she's whispering. Ariana's character is the White Witch is whispering to the Green Witch, "Is your pussy green?" And it's just that dumb meme that's been around for like years. And so that's why she says this. She's so equal to the people posing the question, "Is your blank 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 green?" None of this is funny. None of it is cute. It degrades me. It degrades us. The original poster is an illustration. I am a real life human. I should be doing this. I am a real life human being who chose to look right down the barrel of the camera to you, the viewers, because without words, we communicate with our eyes. Our poster is a homage, not an imitation. To edit my face and hide my eyes is to erase me. And that is just deeply hurtful. It's a very measured and appropriate response to people trying to show her how much they love her and are excited about the film coming out.
And then so people were like, I mean, which is great. People were sort of like, why? What's happened there? This doesn't make sense as a reaction. I don't think it actually was offensive. And I don't know what you're really talking about. And then she got sort of, as I understand it, sort of very gently questioned about it on the red carpet. And she said something like, "Look, where I just care deeply about Elphaba and I had a little human moment." That's how she described it. No, like, I'm sorry to the person who made that. Yeah, no, I got that wrong. She sort of walked up to implying that she did get it wrong and said, I probably should have just called a friend. But we're all human, and I just had a human moment. And the interviewer was like, "That's great. Who are you wearing tonight?" Instead of going like, "But hang on. So why did you find it wildly offensive? Like, what was the problem?"
I think,
with a bit of fan art.
I mean, the other reason why that response is so ridiculous, and I think why so many people just rolled their eyes at it, is because again, just kind of speaking about like this like weird Met Gala-esque Hollyweird elitism. I think a lot of these people have just been so trained and indoctrinated to see every single thing through the lens of injustice, because they can then they're sort of trained in this way because it always helps Hollywood to have you not look at how much money and privilege they have by saying, actually, we're out here, like, we're always fighting a cause. So they're always told, like, if you just listen to Ariana Grande, even in these, and Elphaba, like the amount of times that they've kind of mentioned like how this is really important for like the queer community and like we're really out here doing something. It's very helpful for people in Hollyweird to talk like this, because then you never go, hang on a second, aren't you earning like billions of dollars and kind of have servants, and aren't you the problem? Aren't you part of the problem with the world? And there's a cost of living crisis. And you're all like eating gold cheeseburgers, and they go, no, you don't get it. We're like, we're helping. We're helping you guys. We're helping you through
putting
fighting
ourselves on the line.
This isn't a movie. This is fighting injustice. And I think that that sort of brain rot eats them so much that then when the fans go, I love your film so much, they're just like, you are trying to erase me?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Trying to erase me. She said, I have the quote now, I'm really protective of the role, she told E.T., of course. I am passionate about it, and I know that the fans are passionate about it. And I think for me, it was just like a human moment of wanting to protect little Elphaba. It's like, well, it's a cat that doesn't exist.
It's not a real person.
It's a witch. It was a human moment.
Man.
I probably should have called my friends, but it's fine. And I would have said, well, it's not for you to say whether it's fine or not. Like,
man, I'm so desperate to get to a party where Cynthia, Erivo, and her friends are, and I just want to hear the conversations.
Cynthia Elphaba.
What in God's name are those people talking about at dinner parties and stuff?
Yeah,
like that.
It's true.
Like, are they just? Are they having hors d'oeuvres served at some kind of party, and then chastising the waiter for bringing out some kind of cracker that erases or minimizes their experience? You're just like, oh right. My God.
When my assistant quits because I yelled at her, that's erasure of me. And it's interesting too. I mean, I'd like to know a bit more about Cynthia Erivo because unlike Grande, she hasn't been famous, as far as I know, for a very long time. She actually hasn't grown up in kind of insane wealth or anything.
Right.
She came from like a Nigerian family, perhaps.
Yeah, Nigerian immigrants to the UK.
Yeah.
So whereas Ariana's from like generational, or certainly I don't know if it's generational, but Ariana's from like big money. Ariana's family are like multi-millionaires, I think, and always were. So
that, yeah, and Cynthia grew up in Stockwell in London. I think she was, mostly raised by one parent. She went to University of East London. So she had like this fairly relatable upbringing.
Yeah, that's right.
Has kind of at some point left the stratosphere and entered into the Hollywood climate. And I wonder what that's like whether she's always just been a slightly kind of, melodramatic personality. And I imagine, it's a cautionary tale because it shows you that even people who've had ordinary lives up to a point, who've seen the same things as you and I have seen, when you get a bunch of yes people around you and you get given a platform and people telling you how much you're changing the world by doing a musical about witches, you kind of probably do drink the Kool-Aid if you're not careful and start saying things that don't make any sense.
Yeah, the green Kool-Aid.
Drinking the green Kool-Aid, exactly.
The green lean. Yeah, I guess if you grow up in like
potion,
if you grow up in those kind of theater circles, you're already going to be getting fairly consistent messaging from everybody. And then once Ariana Grande says, "Do you want to be my best friend?" and then Ariana Grande probably takes you even deeper down the weirdo well, and then suddenly you're just like being told. I can imagine it's funny because there's such a difference between the way that British people are seen as they're much more cynical than Americans, and I can imagine that she came from like British theatre, which probably already was like somewhat encouraging, and then she goes to the US, which is just all of this like, you're amazing, you're the most amazing, powerful person that's ever lived. Do you know that? Do you know how amazing and powerful you can change the world? I don't know if you know that, but you can. And then she's probably just going, yeah, I fucking can change the fucking world. Like, And so then she's just like swallowed it whole. And I just think, I don't know, like when I watched those, when I watched the press junket, I saw a lot of comments on TikTok and stuff that people were very encouraging and just kept saying, stop being mean. They're theater kids and they're living their dream. And I'm just like, who is watching that and going, fuck, who is not going, fuck these people, like fuck these people. If you're not doing that, then I don't know what world you're living in that you think that those people behaving like that is something that you want to sign on to and you can relate to. I don't get it.
Al, I've just been doing a bit of reading while we've been talking, and I see that Erivo is starring in an upcoming film adaptation of Prima Facie, which is a play written by Australian playwright Susie Miller. And she is the wife of Justice Beach Jones of the High Court of Australia, who I recently saw speak at the Victorian Bar Dinner. So that means I'm three degrees of separation away.
3 degrees of green bacon away.
3 degrees of green bacon. And I think we should probably work towards, via Beach Jones, if I'm ever in the High Court in the next little while, I might just send an email to his chambers saying, when the hearing is over, can we perhaps talk about, does your wife Susie know Alfaba, and can she be on my podcast?
We'll get her here for 3. We'll get her here for 3 hours. I bet she's like really down to earth and normal. But I bet she's like, oh, how's it going, lads? I've been fucking. It's so nice to be here. Like I was just on a fucking flight, and I fucking love Australia.
We'll be in charge of deprogramming her.
Met Galaing her. How much do you want to bet? How much do you want to bet Cynthia on the red carpet, on the green carpet for the fucking? Yeah. If there is a Met Gala, 100%. I keep saying to you, I think they're gonna go like secret Illuminati, underground sex party vibes Met Gala, because they've become too dislikable. It's like it's getting close to French Revolution times. It's getting close to Russian Revolution times, where the people are just going, yeah, had enough of this. You're all getting. We're going to finish you lot off.
Exactly. You're all snorting some drug that's made from human stem cells or something.
Should we say just before the next point I just wanted to touch on, John, in our Celebathon in Celebistan, is that this week / last week, probably the last 2 weeks, there's been a lot of talk about what's been happening in the cosmetic surgery realms of Hollyweird. What we affectionately have named ploofs, because we have been keeping our eye on the celebrity cosmetic surgery scene since the podcast started, really.
Since the very beginning.
Since the very beginning. And there seems to have been some kind of new technological innovations, which has given us a brand new Christina Aguilera. This is what they're saying. So Christina Aguilera, have you seen Christina? John, have you been looking?
I've seen a little bit of her weight loss journey, and people saying she's been eating semaglutide or whatever it is.
Semaglutide sandwiches. Just put in Christina Aguilera before or after, John. I'll bring up a picture of her on the screen. People have been talking about Christina Aguilera. So there's a few names. 4 of the main ones over the last 2 weeks have been Christina Aguilera, Demi Moore, Shania Twain, and the most famous of all of the last few weeks has been Lindsay Lohan. So I remembered Lindsay Lohan from Mean Girls. I love that film. And then after Mean Girls, I kind of remembered Lindsay Lohan for being in the tabloids, because she'd come out of nightclubs looking like she'd smoked 1 million cigarettes and had just been up all day, like had been up for days. She was a bit of a mess, and her face was showing that she was living a hard life post Freaky Friday, post Mean Girls, but she's still obviously a big celebrity. And then somebody on TikTok was like, here's Lindsay Lohan now. And I just went, that's not Lindsay Lohan. And Lindsay Lohan has had some kind of procedure done to her face, or a number of procedures. Potentially, people are saying a combination of the latest cutting edge cosmetic surgery. There's all these questions about who has done this, because people are basically saying like, this is the best cosmetic surgery work that we've virtually ever seen on a celebrity.
Wow.
And they're saying probably she's probably lost weight as well, like Christina Aguilera, potentially from, your Wegovy's, your Novo Nordisks, your Ozempics. And so she's got
familiar with the whole range.
with the whole range
of semas.
Of GLP-1s. That's right. And so Lindsay Lohan, she's out promoting a new film which is called Our Little Secret. It's a rom-com. And so she's been doing the late night panel shows, and she comes out and she looks 20 years younger. And you can look at these before and after pictures of her. I'll bring them up on the screen for the YouTubers. You can look at these before and after pictures of her. In the before picture, she has a bit of a puffier face. She's got bags under her eyes. Her skin has a bit more texture to it, like it's not as smooth. and she looks like Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah.
And then in the last few weeks, there's a person appearing on these programs that doesn't look like Lindsay Lohan. She looks much, much younger. Her face does not move quite as freely in interviews, I must say. Like a lot of people are pointing to the photograph, the still of her, and going, "This is amazing," and it is. And she does look clearly amazing on video as well. But on video, you kind of go, okay, it's starting to feel like this is work. You can see that it's kind of work that's been done.
There's
and also
a price to be paid.
There's a price, and also the neck is always the giveaway. That's the other thing, is that you can't. They haven't quite worked out the neck lift. They've worked out the face lift, but they haven't quite worked out the neck lift. But the point that I wanted to make, John, because lots of people have spoken about this, it seems like these 4 celebrities have had these procedures done that are becoming more common, where they get so much work done that it interferes with the normal face that you would recognize as being a person that you know. And we're into this weird realm where like people are getting facelifts and work done that disturb what we recognize as being that person, and they look like different people, which is a new thing.
It's like witness protection program.
It is like witness protection.
Cosmetic surgery.
This would absolutely be the thing now. This is going to be what happens in witness protection programs, is you just get Lindsay Lohan's surgeon to do a bit of work on you. But the thing that I haven't seen anyone talk about, and the thing that I think I would like to discuss with you, which I think is really interesting, is that Lindsay Lohan is coming out on these panel shows. I saw her on The View, and I saw her on the show with Andy Cohen, and she's been on a couple of, maybe she was with Jimmy Fallon as well.
Yeah, saw her on Jimmy.
So she comes out to promote the rom-com. She's like, "Hey guys, it's me, Lindsay Lohan." Everyone's like, "Lindsay Lohan, it's so good to see you." The elephant in the room, everybody's thinking the exact same thing, which is you don't look like Lindsay Lohan. What the fuck? What procedure have you had done? Who did it? What? But there's this weird convention. Like we've entered this weird phase in, like, we have this old convention where you're not allowed to ask anyone about the procedures that they've had. But it's got, because maybe back in the day, like, you know, somebody would get a nose job in the 1980s and it would be subtle. They'd still kind of look like themselves. And so it wasn't really appropriate.
People would speculate. Yeah.
And so nobody would ever say, particularly in this kind of like softball celebrity news gossip world, nobody would ever say, "Hey," rarely would anybody say, "Hey, have you had a nose job?" It wasn't polite to say that.
Yeah, that was more like the domain of your sort of prurient, you know, gossip mags, like your sort of trashy tabloids who would say, you know, Pamela Anderson boob job shock revealed or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But and so this convention has been established where you just, it's impolite. You don't ask people if they've had work done. You don't talk about the work that they've had done. But we've reached a realm now where people are coming out with entire new heads that look like different. They look like different people. Like if Lindsay Lohan hadn't told, like, I'm not shitting you. If Lindsay Lohan, like if Whoopi Goldberg didn't know that Lindsay Lohan was coming in to be interviewed and nobody told her, and Lindsay Lohan walked in, Whoopi Goldberg would go, "Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Whoopi Goldberg," and she'd go,
100%.
"Oh, it's no, it's me." It's me, Lindsay Lohan. And then Whoopi would go, "Oh, fuck, you've got an entirely new head. That's clearly the most interesting thing about you right now. So that's what we're going to talk about on the show." But instead, they all just pretend like, it's Lindsay Lohan who remembers it's you again. And everybody in the room's going, "Who the fuck is that?"
It's true. It's very true, because it's very different from saying it's Demi Moore, but her nose is looking a little bit more shapely than we remember it or whatever. And it does kind of give you that, I mean, you know, it gives you that thing where you think, there's certain dimensions or telltale features on people's faces or whatever that just make your brain kick in and say that's so and so.
Yeah.
And the extent of the changes is such that basic facial recognition is being affected.
Totally.
I'm looking at the new version of Christina Aguilera, I mean, the first time I really felt this way was with Gwen Stefani, because she had quite a distinctive face and, you know, had sort of seemingly resisted doing anything too seismic until probably around the time she got rid of the guy from Bush. And then she was like, well, I'm back on the market now. I've got to look my best. I'm going to get a new head. And then she just looked kind of unrecognizable for somebody who was so recognizable. And similarly with Christina Aguilera, it's like, and even the articles, it'll be like her weight loss transformation. And you'll be like, never mind her weight loss transformation. Like if I walked in, you know, to see my parents today at lunch and they said, what the fuck? And I just said, I've just lost some weight. And they'd say, well, I think I must have had a stroke then because I can't recognize your face.
You've done weight loss has sort of removed the recognizable part of your eyelid that let me know that you were my son.
Yeah, you've lost so much weight, you're not John anymore. and yeah, it's funny. It's that kind of like, here she is, everyone. Why? And also, if you're doing that much, and it's so beyond the realm of speculation that you've done it. Like, there's no like, well, you know, maybe this is just a different angle. No, it's like totally different looking person. Then why can't you just embrace the fact that you've done that? Because, you know, you've made that choice. So if somebody says, well, why did you make that choice? And you go, how dare you assume that? It's like, well, if you're that ashamed of it, you shouldn't have done it.
She said it's hilarious too, because Andy Cohen on his show, he did like rapid fire questions. And one of them was like, what's your beauty secret hack? And she said beauty sleep. And she should have just said, oh, I've spent like $500,000 on my new face. Didn't you realize that's my beauty secret? The other one, John, the first person that this I think happened to was Renée Zellweger. That was some years ago. And
that's right.
And Renée Zellweger made the tabloids because she stepped out on the red carpet and people literally didn't know who it was. Like she turned up to some premiere and everybody was like, and she's going, hi everybody, you know, take your photographs. Where do you want me to face? And everyone's going, who the fuck are you?
They just called security and muscled her out of there.
And
because she was also somebody because she had that sort of pinched kind of cutesy squint, which was sort of her trademark. And she had quite a distinctive, you know, like a beautiful face, but a sort of imperfect or quirky face. And then she just looked all smooth, and they all kind of look, it's like they've been replaced by, you know, a generically beautiful person, basically.
Instagram face.
Yeah, Instagram face. Who's like, yeah, you look nice, but you also just don't look anything like you did, and there's nothing distinctive about your face anymore. You just have a smooth skull with things the right distance from each other.
What would you have to come out looking like before? I mean, this speaks to how Hollywood should just be collapsing and you and me should be famous and these people should just be put in the fucking trash. Is that the fact that they won't say on these shows, hey, what the fuck happened to your head? Like, it's just further evidence of how they just think that that the audience is just like, should just be treated like children and you don't get to know what's actually going on behind closed doors. And so so literally you could have like Lindsay Lohan come out and she, what could she possibly do at this point that would facilitate or necessitate an interview going, look. We got to talk about this now. Like, this is now at a point where you can't just come out like that and have it not be. It's like walking. She could just like Lindsay Lohan just walk out naked and sit down, and Whoopi's like, "Oh, you've got a new rom-com on Netflix."
Yeah,
and
that's
she's just
right.
like naked,
exactly
in the chair.
I think what it would require is a deliberate attempt to mimic the look of another person. So if it wasn't just a question of changing your appearance, but she came out and was just like like a dead ringer for a different celebrity.
Like that's what they said. They said that Michael Jackson was trying to make himself look like Diana Ross. So that would be great too. It would be great too if she, for no particular reason, had also picked Diana Ross to mimic.
Ross. And then they had to put it in the DSM-4, like the fucking the pathological desire to resemble Diana Ross.
Rossism. Oh, terrible.
Only 2 known cases. But I think then they'd say, "Oh, you've got a bit of a like you kind of look a lot like Tom Cruise. Tell us about that. What's happened there?"
Do you think we could enter a time, John, where we look back on this episode of the podcast and we were talking about the fact that celebrities wouldn't talk about the fact that they had work done, and I remember we talked about that in that episode, because we will be in a time where Lindsay Lohan comes out and they almost like celebrate and discuss the procedure, and it's like, oh, you've had such great work done. Who are you? Who's the doctor who did it? Let's get him. We've got him here. Let's bring him out. And then he comes and he's like, look, I did this. And everybody goes, look, she looks beautiful. And everyone goes, yeah, like celebrate the fact that she's had all this.
It's humans improving on Mother Nature, and that's a beautiful thing. That's what we've done.
In the same way that celebrate weight loss. In the same way we celebrate, you've got a brand new head, Christina Aguilera, and we love that about you.
Whoopi says, look, I don't want to eat wild bananas. I want to eat bananas that have been crossbred and cultivated to be as delicious as possible. And that's the same way I feel about your face. I don't think that we should just trust evolution to sort it out. But yeah, I mean, it's funny because there's sort of 2 speeds. And we talked about this on the previous podcast, how some people, and they tend to be not your kind of A-listers who never will disclose that they've done anything. But people who are sort of a bit more trashy and a bit more, less concerned with that sort of perfection in their image, they will say, yeah, I had some things done. They'll admit, for example, to having Botox, because that's now viewed as like a pretty normal thing to do.
When it wasn't, that is completely a shift, where initially people getting Botox and not saying anything about it. And now it's become so normalized. It's kind of like it's kind of like getting a new haircut. Women will just go, and men will just go, I just came from my Botox.
Exactly.
I have friends that have told me that they've had small
facial.
things done. Yeah, exactly. I went for a facial. Ariana, by the way, has also had a ton done. If you want to have a look at,
there you go.
They've all had things done. We've spoken on the podcast before about that particular doctor. There's great YouTube channels of cosmetic surgeons who take celebrities that you might not have even thought have had things done and show clear before and afters, where you go, oh my God, I can't believe that literally every one of these fuckers is getting their head shaved every couple of years. I mean, speaking of not discussing or being asked about the procedure, the one time that I can remember that it was asked of somebody recently was a friend of the show, Zac Efron, who suddenly turned up with a Superman chin after having the weakest. He had a weak little baby chin all throughout his High School Musical life. And then suddenly he just said, oh, look, here, it's me, Zac Efron. And everyone's like, what the fuck happened to your chin?
Yeah.
Well, actually, nobody asked for a while. And then one person in an interview said, just wondering if something's happened to your chin there, Zac, because it's enormous now.
Right.
And he said that it was, he tried to muddy the waters and just said, oh, yeah, that's because I had an accident. And I had some trouble recovering, and that's kind of why my jaw looks like this now. Which none of it made any sense. And not only that, but apparently the accident that he was referring to had happened 10 years earlier. So he was doing this weird trick of this kind of like, oh, well, I actually was once in it, because he said, oh yeah, I was in an accident, and then people went, oh yeah, okay, I guess maybe he was in some sort of accident, and then people looked it up and were like, wait, 13 years ago. It's like, yeah, well, I'm not lying. I was in an accident.
Yeah,
and 13 years later, I got a giant chin from it.
It's your classic Ilaria Baldwin, like, my parents live in Spain.
It's the
Make of that what you will.
We should come up. That is definitely like, it should be called like an Ilaria-ism, is how you just answer a different question when you don't want to give somebody the answer.
Yeah.
My parents live in. So you're Spanish? Oh, my parents live in Spain. Oh yeah, checks out.
That's right. That checks out. Yeah, that's right. I'm just looking at her dating history. That's neither here nor there, except that she had an on again, off again relationship with Australian YouTuber Jai Brooks, which will be interesting.
Oh
Maybe we can get
yeah,
Jai.
he was one of they were called the Janoskians or something.
Janoskians, that's
they're
right.
old school, pranky, cute boy YouTubers. Like this is like years ago, and she was dating one of them. But yeah, if you look at Ariana and you go Ariana surgery, she's also looking very gaunt at the moment.
She
has got
is.
a few people concerned. I
She
reckon,
looks very gaunt in those presses. I thought she needs a bit of a reality check and probably a bowl of pasta.
she was absolutely gorgeous with a little bit of puff in her face, and now she's all bone and pretentiousness. And it's a shame because she is an incredible singer, and now I wanted to celebrate her. I wasn't even that familiar with her when she was coming up. She's become a bit of a discovery for me in the last few years. I actually really like a lot of her music. Ariana Grande really is the kind of pop music that I can get into. But she just appears to be one of the most insufferable fake pieces of trash they ever did see, and I can't enjoy her anymore.
Guys, if you're thinking about what you want to do in the next week, I think it's clear from the preceding 58 odd minutes that we don't think you should see Wicked. And
pick something else.
Maybe if you could just, if you're on social media, just hit us up with the hashtag DPTM Don't See Wicked. And
I saw the Truman Show last week. Watch the Truman Show. Truman Show's great.
Yeah, there you go.
Have you watched anything old recently, John, or anything that's seen any classiques? I'll make a recommendation. I think I recommended this before. If you want to see something that's recent from last year, the Wham documentary on Netflix is so good. Here's the thing. Your 7-year-old daughter has said to you, Mum, all the kids at school are talking about Wicked. And you say, look, that sounds great. But have you heard about Andrew Ridgeley and George Michael's very touching relationship that formed band Name of Wham? Because we're going to watch that on Netflix instead.
But Mum.
Funny the jitterbug. That's what a mother would say. I know you want to see, instead of those shitty Wicked songs, we're going to listen to Last Christmas. We're going to listen to Wake Me Up Before You Go Go. We're going to listen to Club Tropicana. Funny the jitterbug. Instead of having popcorn, we're going to have carrot sticks and hummus.
That's right. Just countercultural parenting right there. Love it. What a note to end on.
You've not seen the Wham doc, John?
I haven't. No, I'd like to see that.
It's so good. The relationship between George Michael and Andrew Ridgeley. Oh my God, it's so moving, that friendship in so many ways. You've got to
watch that.
Watch it. That's the recommendation, guys. This has come in at exactly 1 hour. John, do you want to say anything else to everybody before I send you on your way? Before I send you on your way.
Yeah, before you send the perennial show guest on his way.
I'll call you an Uber.
Guys, I would just like to say this. One of the things that I've been working on during the week, which has been filling me with excitement, is experimenting with developing new skills, which is one of the things that I love about the podcast. In this case, turning my hand to the development of some exclusive merch for DPTM subscribers. And it hasn't gone out yet, which means that if you would like to support the show, go on DPTM Patreon and you will find that there's a detailed description of the different tiers, and you can have a look at that and think, do I want DPTM branded this or that? And if you sign up now, it's still coming to you. So get in quick, because I'll tell you what, I wouldn't have thought that I thought my skills were restricted to podcasting and more recently the development of YouTube thumbnails, but it turns out they're a little bit more expansive than that. So I think. So
Fashion.
Yeah, get on board.
You're the next Ken Carter.
Exactly. Yeah. That's
Queensland Football Club's Ken Carter. Guys, that's been a great show. John, I want to say thank you so much, and I can't wait to see you next week.
The podcast.